Guess who hit her book goal? I did. I am so proud of myself because I really did not think I was gonna make it, y'all. I didn't think I was gonna make it until like a few days ago because I had such a long book slump this year, but we made it. I read 52 books this year, and I'm going to recap all the books that I read in December. I'm also going to give a rating for all of the books that I've read too and tell you guys like what they're about. So let's go through it. Hey y'all, if you're new here, my name is Me Queen, and I talk about mostly Black books. This month I read 12 books, and we are going to start with the YA novels, which I only have 2. The first one is The Taking of Jake Livingston, and this one was a lot heavier than I thought it was going to be. I wasn't expecting it to be this intense. So this is a story about a Black boy who is in high school who can see ghosts, but he is specifically being haunted by the school shooter ghosts from his school. And what's really odd about this story is that it's told in 2 separate POVs. So one that is Jake Livingston, and then one that is diary of the school shooter. I feel like this humanizes school shooters in a way that I don't really know I want to read about. It was very strange. It was very odd for me. I gave this book a 2. It was very hard of a read. I'm also gonna put a trigger warning on this because there also is child abuse in the story. This was just like a very heavy read for a YA novel. I pushed through it, to be totally honest. I think the last 50 pages were really good. So the beginning and the end actually were really good. It was the middle where I kind of was like, oh my gosh, like kids are reading this. But I mean, and that being said, it is relevant to today's world. Unfortunately, that is a world that we do live in, but this was not my favorite. Like I said, I gave it a 2, so yeah, I'm gonna move on. Next up is Everything. And first of all, it took me halfway through the book to realize that this was a movie. What? I don't know where I was, what I was thinking about, what was going on. Technically, I didn't see the movie, so it's probably why it took me a long time to realize. But this is actually a movie, and I don't know, maybe I should watch it. I don't know. Anyways, a story about a girl who has this condition called SCID, where she just has very intense reactions to literally everything. And she lives in this bubble that is her house. But next door, there is a family that moves in, and she starts to take a liking to the boy that moves in next door, and they start to communicate and get to know each other. And it's a very, very cute romance YA novel. The story takes a very interesting turn at the end, which I didn't know about because like I said, I didn't see the movie, but it was really cute. I thought the middle was a little bit dry. I did give this a 2.5. Maybe it's better on film, but I think there's a lot of like schematics and cartoons and pictures in here, and I think that's what makes it an interesting novel. However, it's not my taste. Like, I just want words. At some points you do read like her plans and her diary and like the emails. I think emails are fine, but I don't really like all the other stuff. Like, I don't want to see pictures. Like, I want to see words. So that was my main critique for this book. Let me know if you guys have seen the movie because again, I'm very late to this fact. Now moving on to the fiction novels. Let's start with And Now She's Gone. So this is a mystery about a private investigator that is hired by a cardiologist boyfriend whose girlfriend goes missing. So her goal is to find the missing girlfriend, but specifically the dog that she took, and to figure out what actually happened to her. So she goes down this very long rabbit hole trying to find this girl. And what is most interesting about how the story is told is that it's told in present and past tense. During the present tense, you're with the private investigator and you're going along with her trying to find what happened to the missing girl. And then in the past tense, you have the story of this random girl. You have no idea who this girl is, but you're just reading about her being abused by her boyfriend. This one also has a trigger warning because there also is domestic violence abuse in this story. A lot of the stories actually this month have to have trigger warnings, not even gonna lie. So I will still put the trigger warnings throughout the video though to make sure you guys know. Anyway, this one does have DV, so just be aware of that. The 2 stories seem completely, totally uninvolved. Like, they do not seem like they would intersect at any point until literally the very end, and I don't like that. Like, I feel like I should have known earlier on that what those 2 stories were, or at least how they converged. It didn't come together until the very end, and I was kind of unhappy with it. I do have a very strange comment too about the actual format of this book. So this is a smaller book, and I do not like the small little pocket-sized book. Like, I want it to be a full-size book, you know, but this one is literally half of it. I really don't like that because there is not enough enough page to open and to read. Like, I feel like I'm like fighting the binding. That's a very strange critique, I know, but I did not like that about this book either. So I ended up giving this book a 2.5. The actual storyline of what happens to the girl is really, really good, but I don't really like the past tense part of this novel. And again, I don't like the actual like format of the book itself. So maybe it wouldn't be that bad if I had an e-copy or something. But yeah, that's what I felt about this one. Next up is Mr. Hockey. So this is also a romance, and I got this from a publisher. This is a new release that I just saw in Barnes & Noble a few days ago. And this is about this librarian woman who is hosting an event at her library when her main act cancels, and instead she asks her sister for help, and her sister just happens to be interviewing this very famous hockey player. So she convinces the hockey player to fill in for her sister's event. This was very short, so it's a short novel. It's less than 200 pages, but it was very spicy, like high on the spice. I really wasn't expecting it. I kind of wanted a little bit more of a storyline. Like, there wasn't a lot of trials and tribulations in the middle. It was just like way more spice than I was anticipating, because it's such a short book. Like, I was like, oh, you know, this is gonna be cute, but it's not gonna be like all that intense. It was high spice. It was definitely high spice. I did enjoy it. This is my first like hockey type of romance book. I know there's a lot of hockey romance novels going around right now, so maybe I will dabble into Icebreaker. I don't really know. If you guys have read it, let me know what you think about Icebreaker in the comments. This is a really cute short read, something you can read in the airport, because like I said, it's less than 200 pages, so it was enjoyable though. I did enjoy it a lot. Okay, next is They Both Die at the End, and this one was a thinker for me. I rated this book 5 stars. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. It really made me think about my life, and this is one of the books that I just want to keep sharing with people over and over and over again because it's so good. So it is about 2 boys who live in this like dystopian world where if you are going to die on that day, you get a call between 12 and 1 a.m. that your death day is here. And when you get that call, they will give you different activities they recommend for you to do, you know, in case you want to do that on your last day. But these 2 guys that don't know each other at first, they decide to sign up for a app that is essentially built to connect people on their last day of life. So they both sign up for the app, and they end up meeting each other and spending their last days on earth together. And it's such a very incredible story. It makes you think about whether or not you are living your life in the way that is the most authentic and genuine to you. One boy is very introverted. He doesn't like to leave the house. He just wants to stay to himself and to his family. And the other boy is like a bad boy. Like, he has just done so many messed up things in his life, and he is trying to turn his life around on the very last day. And the 2 of them go through all these different adventures literally in less than 24 hours. And then of course, you know, they die at the end, so I don't even have to ruin that for you. That's the title of the book. But this one was really good. I would 1000% recommend it. This was on my top books of 2023 from this year. So yeah, definitely take a stab at this one. Next is The Other Mistress. This was another 5-star read. I feel like this month it was either like I did not like the book or I loved the book. You know, like I didn't have too many in the middles this month, but this was another 5-star. And this is about a woman who discovers that her husband is cheating on her with not 1 but 2 different women. So she goes to the first woman, she meets her in person, and she's talking to her, and she says, oh yeah, well, my husband has another mistress. And that girl is like, what? Wait a second, what's going on? So together they team up and they decide to ruin the relationship of her husband and the second mistress. This is so psychologically insane. It is a psychological thriller, but this was really, like, I was not expecting this to be as good as it was, and it was very good. It was a 5 stars. Like, I would not change it for the world. This was a very good book. I don't know why I had to say that all in one breath, but it was literally so incredible. I could not recommend this enough. It was a part of the Blue Book 5-star series from this month. Like, this was so good. Next up is The Goodbye Line, another 5-star book that I read this month. Like, this one was really funny. So I bought this a few months ago, never touched it. This one also gets a trigger warning. Actually, this book also has a trigger warning. What is in this one? Oh, there is inappropriate touching with children in this one. This one also gives a trigger warning, and this one is about suicide. So just keep that in mind. This book is about a girl who learns that her childhood friend has died, and it was ruled a suicide, but she doesn't quite believe that it's a suicide. However, her friend's mom asked her to write her friend's obituary. She's not an obituary writer, but she is a librarian. However, she knows how to write obituaries, so she starts to interview all of the people in the girl's life. And when she meets the girl's former co-worker, he's like, I don't think she would have killed herself either. So together they team up to try to figure out what actually happened to the girl. in the midst of her writing this obituary. So this was a very interesting story. It was very, very funny, which is why I think I forgot to say the trigger warning in the beginning. It's very comedic. Like, this would be a really funny Netflix film. I think this one was really good. I got this as a used book, and this is pretty old. Like, it wasn't published this year, but this is definitely worth the read. I definitely recommend it. I read this in a day. Like, it was very good. So yeah, this one was a 5-star book for me. Next is the Osawa Murders, and this is one of the books this month that I just did not like at all. Like, this one was very low on the list. It was actually my worst books video, so if you haven't seen that, you should definitely check it out. Okay, this one is about, at a very big party, there are 17 people that die by poisoning, and no one knows what happened. So the crime goes unsolved, and 10 years later, one of the little girls that was alive during the time is now a grown woman, and she decides to write a book about what happened, these people that were killed. However, her story doesn't really have any answers either, even though she's done all these interviews. And then years later, there's another detective that's like, I want to relook at this case and I want to figure out what is actually happening. Now, what I didn't like about this book was how it was told. So the POV is kind of like second person. It just didn't flow well for me. And I also think, so at some points you're reading the words that the detective is hearing, so you are in the POV of the detective, but they aren't using the pronouns I, so I'm pretty sure it is second person. Anyway, in other points of the story, you are reading it in third person. So there isn't really a pattern in how you're reading the book. Also, the story doesn't really come together that well because it's kind of hard, or at least it was very difficult for me to follow, because I couldn't tell who was talking and what was happening and what was actually going on. So this was very low on my list. I did not like this one at all. One other note about this book is that it was originally written in Japanese, and the version that I have was translated to English. There are many words that are in other languages that don't translate directly to English, so I think there were some issues with the translation where it just didn't really carry over all that well. So this one I was not a fan of. I would not recommend, but I'm really disappointed because I thought the storyline was really great, but I wish it was just told in a different way. Next is Not My Type. I finally finished this one, and it was in my blind date with a book video, but this one is about two different people who are mutual friends. So their friends are married to each other, so that's how they end up meeting, but they're complete and total opposites. They both don't want a relationship, but somehow they end up with this friends with benefits situation, and they start to get to know each other, end up really liking each other. So the plot here is very straightforward. I thought this is a self-published novel, and there were like some grammar errors in it, which shouldn't change the plot of the novel, but it just bothered me, so I wasn't really a fan of that. However, I did think it was a cute story. One thing that also bothered me about this book was that the epilogue introduces totally brand new characters that were not in the story at all, and I just thought that was really strange, but it's a way to lead into the next book. The next book doesn't include any of the characters from this book, so that was just very different. I've never seen an author do that before. Maybe it's just me, but this was a cute read. It is a Black author novel, so I am considering checking out the other novels from this author. However, I don't think I would read this series. Last fiction book of the month was My Lovely Wife. And if you saw my best books of 2023 video, then this one was considered an honorable mention because I hadn't finished it at the time. But I did finish this, and oh my gosh, it was 5 stars. It was so good. It was so good. I wish I finished it at the time so then I would include it in the video. But this is a story about a couple who abducts women together. It is told in the POV of the husband. Talks about this hobby that him and his wife have, and together they have 2 children. So they lead a very normal life, but on the side they stalk women, they abduct them, they hold them for long periods of time. It is just such a very psychologically like crazy, absolutely bonkers type of novel, and it is pretty long. Like this is one of the longer books I've read, almost 400 pages, but it is so good. Oh my gosh, it was so good. I like did not have time to read it some days because like it's a really long book, but I would literally go to sleep next to this book because it was just that good. If you like psychological thrillers or mysteries, this one will definitely make you think, and I think that's why I like these types of novels the most, because you don't really know what happens at the end, even though you do know what happens. It just like, it's a thinker. It's just like, what actually happened, I don't know, and it just makes you question the purpose of this novel. So 5 stars, could not recommend this one enough. Last 2 are nonfiction stories, and they're kind of out of the blue. I have been reading a lot of fiction lately, but I've been getting a little bit more into nonfiction in the last like few weeks. So the first one is Fight Languages, and this is about how to resolve conflict with other people. So if you know about the love languages, then this is the total opposite. So fight languages are the languages that you use to argue. And what I like about this book is, one, it's super short and it's like 70 pages, but it tells you how to identify the different fight languages, how to cope with those languages, and how to turn your reactions into responses. And then it also tells you how you can respond to other people with different fight languages or with the same fight languages as you. So things to say, things not to say, you know, how to resolve the conflict. This is really good. Like, this is a really good handbook. I did enjoy it a lot. It's very, very quick. So this is something that you can definitely refer to over and over and over again. Really, really good handbook. And then last but not least is Signs, the Secret Language of the Universe. And this is also another nonfiction novel that I would consider to be spirituality. So it talks about how to communicate with people from the other side. So yeah, definitely spirituality. It's written by a psychic who has a bunch of different stories about interactions with her clients and her clients' interactions with their deceased loved ones, and it's really, really good. So on top of telling the stories, it also gives you different techniques and things that you can do to connect with either other psychics, other people that have lost their loved ones, or your loved ones. This is jam-packed with a ton of information, but what I love the most about this specific novel is that it has those anecdotes, which a lot of spirituality books don't really have anecdotes in the way that this one does. This one just stuck out to me in Barnes & Noble, and I was like, I'm gonna have to read it. I did give it 5 stars, so I really did enjoy it a lot. If spirituality is something that you're dabbling into, this is definitely a really good introductory, because it is just like very beginner level manifestation, spirituality, and being connected with the universe. Those were all of the books that I read in December, and for the last few days I'm trying to decide what is going to be my book goal for this year, and I think I have finally landed on 75 books. And the reason why I'm not going for 100 is because I have a lot of travel plans coming up in the new year, so I don't know if I'll have as much time to read as I did this year, but I am still definitely gonna try. I have so many books that are already on my TBR. I have so many books that have been shipped to me and sent out and are gonna be released in the new year. So I cannot wait to share them with you guys and to read them all and to continue making more videos. So by the time you see this video, it will be the new year, so happy new year, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.